Hello everyone, welcome back to the Double L Show, and today is a very important episode. Today is our autism episode, and with us we have a very special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm 19. I'm from Sunderland, and I'm an autistic content creator on TikTok, where I post autism acceptance videos, just educating people about what autism is, like the history of autism, like how to spot autism traits, like autism and masking, like autism representation in the media, just all that kind of stuff.
Importance of acceptance, why it's still so important and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know whether to start and say it's because of the image that's projected when people hear autism. They automatically think of like bad things and usually stereotypes or just random portrayals they've seen. Usually they have no idea what it is in the first place. Like they could be like, oh, this is what it's like, and you're like, no, that is not it. Like it
There's
really
also
isn't.
Yeah, there's also still, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but there's also still that misconception. A lot of people still don't think that it exists in girls. They still think it's like a male condition. I remember that I went to a trampoline park not that long ago, and a woman behind me had an autistic son who was nonverbal, and she was just talking about his autism, and I just said, "Oh, I'm autistic," and she was like, "Oh, really? That's rare in girls," and I thought, "It's not, but okay."
Yeah, people are quite ignorant. There's still people trying to say that vaccines cause autism. If it literally caused autism, there'd be a lot more autistics because it doesn't just pick and choose.
Yeah, like, okay, yeah, sure. So, mother of four, like a flu shot rewired my whole brain, definitely.
Yeah. Does Lee want to add anything to?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like when they start anything they'll say about vaccines, like they've literally said vaccines cause everything. But the most famous one was the autistic one. Like I remember in the 90s when I was born, that's when I think it was really heightened about the autism in the vaccine. And I remember my mum was speaking to someone who said she's not going to get a kid done for that reason. And I remember my mum saying to her, well, she'd rather have an autistic kid than a dead kid. Because if they catch meningitis, rubella, or mumps, then may as well, it'll kill them.
Yeah, like why do people say that autism's like such a bad thing? Like they're
Yeah, they
like,
act as
oh,
if
it's
it's
like the worst thing ever. Like they think, oh yeah, it's the worst thing. Oh, what are they just automatically think of bad
negatively.
things and
Yeah,
negatives and just like it's not that we're not that different in reality. Okay, our brain thinks a tiny bit different, but it doesn't mean we're like completely, I don't even know, alien.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's what the treat autistic people as is they're not human almost, as if they're
Yeah.
different species.
I did feel like an alien when I was younger, but that's because like that was me realizing that I was different from other people. But I think as well, I think society really fears what they don't understand. And I sort of think that's where it comes from. And another thing that I've noticed is sometimes people, like when they talk about people with disabilities, they'll be like, "Oh, they're autistic. Like this is what like, oh, they've got something wrong with them. They're autistic." And I'm like, how's it wrong? Like it's different. Like why do you think that different is wrong? Like just because something's different, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just different. Like
Yeah, it should be like celebrated because although we think differently in like a really good way at times. Like other people could never, like I don't even think they could comprehend what goes on in our brains and how powerful they are. I mean, sometimes they work against us, but sometimes they work for us.
there's literally tech companies that only hire autistic people. Like if you look up the top people in any field, I guarantee like a lot of them will have been autistic. And I think that comes from like special interests. We get so obsessed with something to the point where like we basically know everything about it. And I think that's where intelligence on the autism spectrum comes from. I also think we use that as like a form of escapism as well, to sort of like forget about things that we struggle with, like, like making friends and stuff, like social interaction, that kind of thing. And, like the exhaustion of like having to mask all the time. Um, but yeah, like all it took is just for people to look at the world a little bit differently. Like we wouldn't have had some of the fancy technology that we have today if it wasn't for people who just thought a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
true. The second bullet point, autism
Ooh.
speaks, because a lot of people actually have no idea what they're about and why autistics hate them so much. They think that we can't possibly hate because they're doing good in the world and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think they've done anything good for autistics apart from take the money for themselves.
What annoys me is how many celebrities that have supported them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the list when it got released and I was mortified because there was people who like I'd talked to, loads like celebrities who were on that list, and I was just like, I can't believe I actually idolized you and
Yeah.
you've donated to. I can name some, but I just
There was a few names on there. I was like, hang on, no, because like some of them I had been following their career all my life, and then when I
And
seen them on that list, I was like, nah, I can't do this anymore.
yeah.
and it was people that I used to like, that I used to look up to, like Jack Black, Adam Sandler, and I just thought, why? I would like to think that these celebrities didn't realize that it was a bad organization and they just did this to like make themselves look good or whatever, but like at least read into the organization that you're supporting before you go and like promote it, please.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Live Theatre Newcastle did something like last year. They promoted Autism Speaks. Not Live Theatre, sorry, Theatre Royal in Newcastle.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
last year.
I literally went off it and I sent them a full-on email saying, did they realize like the little bit of research they could have done? Like people were kicking off and they had to
Yeah,
take it down, but they never apologized. And you're
I
like,
know. It's
so you
ridiculous.
support, so like endorsing eradication doesn't like warrant an apology in any way, because that's kind of offensive that you're like, we support autistics, but we support eradication. Like,
Yeah, I messaged them and I sent them a list of all the actual charities that help autistic people. I was like, yeah, maybe you could promote some of these instead of a
mhm.
actual hate group.
Yeah.
That's also why the color for Autism Acceptance is red instead of blue, because the color blue comes from Autism Speaks and we don't want anything to do with those. And it's the I don't know if the videos are still up or if they've been taken down, but they used to have like several like really harmful like ableist videos about autism, saying stuff like, you know, I am autism, like I'm visible in your children, I'm gonna ruin your marriage, like
Yeah.
making us kind of
Yeah.
horror. No, I couldn't even bring myself to watch the full video because it was a bit triggering, but it was awful.
Yeah, it's just like it blows your mind in a way, because you're like, how ignorant can people actually be to like what goes on around them? Like, did they just not see anything, or did they just, see no evil, essentially? That's the way it goes. And when all the SEA drama kicked off the other year and Autism Speaks was involved, even though she said they weren't, because I forced myself to watch the entire movie, and in the credits on the version I watched, Autism Speaks was there and credited, and I was just like, so they weren't involved, were they?
I haven't watched the movie, but I've seen little snippets and like other content creators talking about it on TikTok, and I just thought, why? Like, what was the reason?
Yeah, it was so harmful. Like in the inaccuracies really like were bad. Like I've never known, like out of all the portrayals ever, even like the really bad ones, that has got to be the worst, because the stuff they were putting out was dangerous, harmful, and misinformation. You're like, what are they talking about? Like, and the thing that bugs us the most is just like, say you're trying to defend it and saying that it was based on a friend who's autistic and they were male, and you're like, you can't switch the gender because then it becomes even more inaccurate. Like, it's just totally different.
I think as well that like it should be autistic people like playing autistic actors, because autistic actors do exist. That's probably the best thing that an autistic person can be, because like we're basically acting our everyday lives, like masking. Like, I mean, why not just get an actually autistic person to play the character? Like, no one's gonna play an autistic person like better than someone who lives with it every day. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I feel like there's one exception, and like say like in my position, like as a writer, to guide somebody, if somebody was going to play that role, someone autistic guide them as to like the way they should act and to not portray like mockery essentially. And yeah, I feel like there's some examples out there which it's like really bizarre to watch, because I'm like, that is so accurate and nobody even guided them on it. And you're like, this is, I'm literally skipping so many topics, but like autistic coded characters on TV, they are so much more accurate than the ones that are actually labeled autistic.
It's like Luna from Harry Potter. She's my favorite autistic coded character.
Mhm.
I-
I haven't seen Harry Potter.
You have whoa, hang on. You haven't seen Harry Potter?
No, because I never liked it.
How is this the first time I'm hearing about this?
Yeah, I've never, but Maura Isles, top tier, up there. And he can't even nod. Why are you
Yeah,
nodding? You
I
have
don't
not.
know.
We
I
were
know.
going over this. You have not seen an episode. But
Yeah.
other Fox Mulder,
Yes,
100%.
definitely.
Or like Garcia from Criminal Minds. Quite a few. There's loads out there.
Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head, but I mean, I used to think that, I don't know if any of you have seen Gravity Falls. It's like a kid show. But
I haven't, no.
thought that Mabel was very autism coded, but yeah.
It's
But
kind of
anyways, autism speaks. But they did this thing not that long ago where they tried to detect like autism in the womb. I don't know how they managed to do that, and if there was like some kind of proof that the child was autistic, that encouraged the mother to abort the autistic child, which I thought was disgusting. And I'm pretty sure all the money that goes in their pockets goes towards trying to like find a cure for autism. It's like it's a different wiring of the brain. You can't cure autism. Okay. If
yes,
you
Spectrum 10K were doing the same as well, similar to that. And they wouldn't give up like why they were taking autistic's DNA. They wouldn't answer the question.
like surely if they were like an organization, if they supported us, they wouldn't try to get rid of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I found weird is they are so adamant that there's going to be a cure in that saying that they actually do care about autistic people. But in my thinking, it's if you care about them so much, you would focus on helping them, but instead of trying to like eliminate them. Like it's just ridiculous how they go on. Like I'm amazed I haven't been blocked by them on Twitter yet because I've actually replied to a few of their tweets before, and I've not been kind.
good on you. Next topic is bullying. This is the weird thing that I found out. I think it was like a few weeks ago. Kids who were labeled weird are like neurodiverse, and it's like though, yeah,
I was just saying like they're most likely are neurodivergent.
yeah, and like it's just weird because the ones who label them weird have no idea what it is about them, but they just end up being called weird because they can't understand why they're different, which is just really strange to think that people actually could detect that in a way that you were so different to everybody else. Like when in reality you just think you're being normal. Like
Yeah. It's like I was always like, like the last friend in the group to like get the joke or whatever. Like I was made fun of for being a bit slow with my social cues. I don't know, because thing is, at school, like I wasn't very good at expressing my emotions. Like I could be really happy, but that wouldn't show up on my face. So I was made fun of for my facial expressions, like not always picking up on social cues. I was also really quiet, and because sometimes autistic people can be like, how we don't always have filters and we just like say what's on our mind. Like, I was told that I was rude, that I was bitchy, and to me, like what I said wasn't even that bad. Like they just couldn't handle the truth. But yeah, I mean, like I struggled to make friends and everything anyway, and like I got in with the wrong people. People took advantage of me being too nice to people, like too naive, like just all of that stuff really.
yeah, like the weird thing is for me that I still can't see how people can see like I don't see any of the traits anymore in myself. I don't know if it's because other things have came into play and they override it or something, but like I don't think any of it was very obvious for me, and like nothing. Like I don't like I've always understood social cues, like I always showed emotions. I think I showed too many emotions, to be honest. Like I just feel like I don't even know. Like I sometimes don't feel I am anywhere, like even though I know I am. Like it's just so weird because that's what I'm going through at the moment. I'm like, do I really, like, am I? Am I still? Like it just feels like erased.
Yeah, I get what you mean. That could have like that could be due to masking as well though. Like you could mask so well to the point where like you're like, hold on a minute. Like, have I just somehow suppressed all of my autistic traits? Like it's like
Yeah.
I kind of taught myself not to stim. Like when I was younger, I used to flap my hands whenever I got excited. And the older I got, I know the more people would think it was weird and the more I would be made fun of. So every time I went to flap my hands, I would just like grab hold of my trousers. And
Mhm,
that was a way of like trying to suppress it. And like now I don't do it anymore. So I've
mhm.
like taught myself like subconsciously how to not do that, which is kind of shitty because because you know stimming is so normal and it's not just autistic people that stim, like everybody stims, and I should never have like felt the need to do that.
Yeah. Like I was gonna say something that's totally gone. Oh my God. But I've never masked in my life. Like I just haven't. I've always been openly myself and I never stopped that for anyone for some reason. I don't know why. I was just always myself because that's the way I was built to kind of, I feel like it sometimes upbringing comes into things as well as to like how people end up behaving. And for me, it was always to be myself and I was always taught to like embrace who I was and to just essentially go wild. So I think I never really ended up masking at all. I just ended up just doing my own stuff and maybe it become less noticeable at certain points because I was occupied. I don't know.
That's good. That's a good thing that you know like you never felt like you needed to hide your true self. I, in primary school, I felt comfortable. Like I would never have. I'm still like this now. I would never have a meltdown in front of people. Like I was the type of person to just hold in a meltdown for the whole 6 hours I was at school, come home and then just like erupt like a volcano.
Hmm.
So in a sense, like I would never like kick off or like have a meltdown in front of people. But other than that, in primary school, like I was okay being myself, but I knew that like when I got to secondary school, I would be made fun of for doing things that were a little bit out of the norm. And I kind of was. And sometimes it would bother us, sometimes it didn't, like little things like, you know, I would eat the same thing every day. Um, like people thought that was weird that I ate the same thing every single day for like the whole 5 years. And I was like, so I like this food, like why is it an issue? I guess it was just like my safe food or whatever, but I was just made fun of for like little things like that, which I thought was stupid, but
Yeah, like I remember there was times where I was open about my mental health and people were like saying, oh, just let her get on with it, she's autistic. And people were saying that before I was anywhere near like diagnosed. And I was like, whoa, what? I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why are people saying that? But my two best friends, they knew from the moment they met us, they were like, it just knew. And I'm just like, that is kind of creepy. But now I kind of understand because I can just tell straight off. Like I could tell with Lee, like I just knew. And I kind of like kept it in for a while. But then there's
Oh,
other
yeah, a long
people.
time.
I wonder if our mutual friends, I totally know that he is, and I don't want to say anything. So I'm just like,
Oh,
I nearly said it the other night, and I was like, psychosis, don't make me say anything else. It's already bad enough.
there's definitely times in school where I looked at people and I didn't know whether they were like different or not, but I would just think to myself, yeah, you're definitely like neurodivergent somehow, but I'm not gonna say anything because it's not my place.
I feel like it's a lot more acceptable now, though, to like tell people because of like the waiting lists and how long diagnosis takes, and it's just ridiculous. And I feel sorry for anybody who's waiting right now because it just people's lists keep getting longer. Like some people's have jumped from like 6 years to like 8 years, and you're
I
like,
did
what?
look it up. I did look it up, and I think it was like roughly there's about 700 to 800,000 people currently on a waiting list for a
Oh my
diagnosis.
God, it's
Yeah.
insane. God, I've got
Like
no hope.
I was diagnosed when I was 9, which is very early for a girl because girls don't tend to get diagnosed until later on in life. And even it's like, even though I was diagnosed so young, it still took me 4 years to get a diagnosis. And they would just say things, because when they diagnosed us when I was like a kid, what they would do is like, they had like a little ticky box thing, and like some boxes were ticked, some boxes weren't, and they were just stereotypical like autistic traits. And then my mum was like, so what's happening then? Is she autistic or not? And they'd be like, well, we don't know, because some boxes she ticks and some she doesn't. Like, excuse me, I'm not an autism stereotype. Like, I'm not in your little box, okay? Leave me alone.
Yeah, they kind of think that it's all just one thing, or like all one other thing, but then it's more like we're like a radar than a spectrum. We're just like, everyone's like so different. Like some people are just like, they have struggles, other people don't. Some just get on with it, some just can't. Like it's very, very different. It's very vast.
I think the way that I look at, some autistic people like to look at the spectrum rather than like a line. We try to look at it as like a circle. So like, color could represent like something like a certain strength, and then this color could represent something that, you know, you're not so good at, like, and it's different for every autistic person. Like, someone who are like, I don't like to use the function labels. I think referring to an autistic person who struggles more so, like, I think calling them low functioning is a bit dehumanizing to them. Like, I think, so I guess I'll just say autistic people who have like, who need more support. Like, to a neurotypical person, they would view them as like low functioning, but they might have strengths that to me could be weaknesses. Like, everyone is like so different.
It's just mental to think that it's 1 in 3 people who are neurodiverse in some kind of sort.
I think there's actually more neurodiverse people than neurotypical, to be honest.
Probably. My
Yeah.
voice is going. Oh, this is what happens when I talk too much.
Yeah,
But
if you think about the diagnosis, how long it takes, in 1 in 3, how many people that is? How many people will there be out there who won't even think that they are, because they've just never learned about it?
I think that's
Because
like,
honestly, when I
I
was
think
growing up, I never heard about autism until I was like 16, 17.
it wasn't.
I've just been mind blown right by this statistic. If there's over like 1 billion people in the world, and it's 1 in 3 people, a third of the population, essentially, that is like 333 million people. Like, I think I've just totally blown my brain out of like, I don't know, why did I do that to myself? I'm now going to be thinking of that all night.
Yeah, I get that, and it's like, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh well. But like, everyone that I know that are autistic, like, they weren't diagnosed as young as me. They were diagnosed like in their late teens, like early 20s.
I think it comes down to knowledge as well, because if someone has the knowledge of it, then the people around them most likely they'll pick up on it. Whereas like if someone has no knowledge whatsoever, that can lead to like late diagnosis, because if someone's not around to spot it and has no idea, then yeah.
There's literally been people like diagnosed in like their 50s and 60s, and I wouldn't want to go that many years, like that many decades, not knowing why I was different. It's like rapper Eminem, he's autistic. Like, he's only recently just found out that he's autistic, I think. And he's 50, so like, he will have grown up in a time where autism wasn't really a recognized thing. I'm glad that I grew up in a time where it was more recognized. Like,
Yeah, for me, like, although my school had an autism unit, which like came in handy. I mean, I went in there like pretty much every day for like 5 years, but like it's just crazy. Like, I can't. I've just blown my mind, and I've just lost my trail of thoughts straight off, because this is what happens. My brain just goes so far and then it just disappears. What was I saying?
what I find so weird about my autistic brain, right, is like, I can remember things from like 10 years ago, like in such fun detail. But yet my mum will like give me a very basic instruction. She'll be like, oh, can you go upstairs and get my purse? And I'll get halfway up the stairs and forget why I've even gone up there for. And it's like, why
Yeah.
can I remember from so long ago that is so irrelevant?
Yeah.
But something
Yeah.
that's basic, I forget it like that.
Yeah, I think that comes down to like sometimes like APD as well, like auditory processing disorder, because our brains can just like, there's such a delay in like when you hear things to as in like do things. So it's just like, oh, what was that? And then you're just like, oh no. And then you just don't want to ask because you don't want to be like, because some people don't understand and they think you're being like ignorant and that you weren't listening. But the truth is, it just goes, gone.
Yeah. Like honestly, even it happened today. My mum asked us to go get something out of the fridge. And I'm already in the kitchen. I got to the fridge, opened the door, and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I
Like I
think
just
it links in ADHD as well,
Mm.
like majorly. It's just there's so many conditions that coexist together. Like it's hard to think about.
I'll be honest, I don't really know much about ADHD. Like, I had a very stereotypical idea of what I thought it was, like, I'll be honest.
Mhm.
But I'm not like the stereotype. But like I know that ADHD and autism are two different things, but I know that they've got like a lot of similar traits.
Yeah, so what it goes like, if you're autistic, you most likely have ADHD, but if you've only got ADHD, you're most likely not autistic. It's weird, but like I'd say because I mean, I was like, well, I've definitely got it. Even the mental health nurse like I see all the time, nearly. She's just like, yeah, ADHD, but then I've also got other things which are relevant to both of them. But yeah, it's just like you want to get up on a morning, but then it's like, no, it's like I'm just gonna chill, and then you just forget everything, and you're like, I was meant to do something, and then it's bugging you, and you're like, oh no, I'm like, I forgot something big. And like, I never used to be like that. I used to remember every single thing. And I have to have a calendar because I forget. Like, I'll just be looking, I'm like, oh no. I have to be somewhere. And then I'm like running around like an idiot.
That's actually called executive dysfunction, and autistic people have this as well. The way I describe it is like I'll get up on a morning and then like my brain will be like, okay, like you need to get up, you need to do this, you need to do that, like you need to be out the door like for this specific time. Like so you know that you're gonna be somewhere. Like my brain knows this, but my body's like, you know what, no, like we're just gonna sit here and stare at a wall and do nothing.
Mhm.
And then like no, like you need to get up, you need to leave, and then my body's like, I don't care. Like we're just gonna sit here and stare at a wall for like the next half an hour and literally do nothing.
Yeah, it kind of links into that because there's a lot of similarities, and it's just like there's so much that goes into it. And you're like, I mean, I get days where I call it like euphoria because it's just like I can have days where I'm like an absolute high and so hyperactive, like crazy. And then the next day I'm just like dead on the floor because it's just like it's gone, the energy, it just comes and goes. But then some of that links to BPD as well. But I don't know whether the mood swings are one or the other. It's just like it's an absolute mess.
Mm. It's like it's like BBT. I don't really know much about that either. It's just when I like I've asked people what it is and they just say the same thing, just like the stereotype, like oh it's mood swings or whatever. And I'm like pretty sure it's more than that, but okay.
Yeah, it's very confusing even for me, but it's like I lived pretty normal, like the just like I don't even know how to describe my life. I was just getting on with things. Like I had pretty much a good time. Like I was just enjoying it. And then after turning 18, like things changed so drastically. And like there was delusions and it was like you can't do this, you can't do that, and it stopped us doing all the things that I loved. Like I absolutely love them and I still love them things, but it won't let us do it. It's literally full on refused, and if I kind of go against its wishes, it sends us into psychosis where I get even more delusions, hallucinations. And that's what I was in the other night. I had 3 episodes and I was completely wiped out. I could barely move. Like it was brutal. But then there's sometimes voices and they don't always come, but they're like kill yourself, and then it's kind of given ways to kill myself, and I'm like stop. I'm like I don't want that. But then there's like the emotional side of things where like go through so many emotions. Like I could be happy one moment and then I'm be like, it's like flipping. I flip constantly between emotions. They're just so conflicting, but then there's also splitting, which is even worse. And that's what I was doing on Friday night. I think it's kind of like you have you and then you have like two other people, and it's like having an angel or devil on your shoulders, and one's just like saying one thing and the other's saying it, and you're just stuck in the middle, and it's like your whole personality is just gone and everything just drains away, and it's not very nice. I mean, it's hard to explain because I can't explain it myself. I don't understand it.
That would really freak me out if that was happening to me. If I thought that I could hear voices in my head, I would be like, what is going on? Like, am I going insane? Am I going crazy? I would hate that so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think the weirdest time was I could hear whistling, I could see cameras flashing, and someone tried to lure us outside of my house. There was a ghost standing in my room. Like, it was absolutely crazy levels of like insanity. And sometimes I'd be thinking that I'm in a TV show and that someone's going to murder us. Like, it's just no logic. Every single thing that you have to stop you is gone in that moment, and you're just like, oh no. Like I was saying, Ellie, like my eyes were so wide and I was just like standing outside my mum's door just swaying because it wouldn't let us open the door, it wouldn't let us speak, it took over, and I had to wait hours. Like, it didn't stop for the whole night, and it's just absolute torture. I mean, I could go through the symptoms, but I can't be bothered to find them. It's scary stuff. It's like battling demonic possession.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I shouldn't have closed that.
I believe in ghosts. I believe in the supernatural. I believe in all that stuff.
You should have been here earlier.
Yeah.
There's always like weird orbs and stuff coming across the back of my screen, and I don't know why, but yeah, I feel like I should move on to another topic that is like
Yeah.
gaslighting, because there's a lot of it going around in the NHS where people are dismissed on the symptoms. Like, they could have all the symptoms for something and they'll be like, you don't have that, you have this, bye. And you're like, what? Like, they should take it seriously, but then they're like, oh, you're fine. Like, I'm clearly not fine. Anybody who's like reads these things, they're gonna be like, that girl's crazy. Like, they just let people suffer, and a lot of people are dying because of it.
So that TikTok where like you captioned it saying like, oh, someone asked for my history of mental health, and it was like this book, and it was like pages and pages and pages.
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah, that was for my mental health sessions, and I've stopped. Like, I've wrote all that out to try and get my right diagnosis, and they ignored it. They didn't take anything from all them sessions that I'd done, and I'm just like, so I spent a whole night writing all them pages for nothing. I'm still fighting them against it, and I've lodged a complaint because I refuse to be silenced.
I mean, they are failing you massively. It just, they're ignoring you, and I don't see what the point of dismissing you without looking at the evidence. Like, that's their job. Their job is to help people, but they're just, it's crazy. I hope that complaint actually gets something done.
So do I. Like, I'm just stuck. I don't even know where I'm at. They were supposed to call us back and I've just been ignored and left. I'm like, oh, fine. Like, not even the mental health worker can help. They've just like, oh no, sorry, we can't. I can't do anything because it's not in my area, and neither can this service. So I'm just gonna refer you back to this place. I'm like, great. They're like, no risk at all. And I'm like, I'm hearing voices that want us to kill myself and told us ways to kill myself. Is that not a risk? Because I will do it eventually if I have no logic.
I've actually seen like those TikTok videos where people make fun of like is it the crisis team? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll be like hello, like I want to end my life, and they'll be like, oh, you'll be fine, just have a cup of tea and a bath, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to, like,
Yeah.
I want to die, and they're like, just have a cup of tea, have a bath, you'll be fine. It's like, oh,
Yeah, there's literally no logic. I mean, I got told, they're like, oh, you're getting out the house, that's good. I'm like, yes, because what I'm going through, some days I'm fine and some days I'm absolutely not fine. Like, am I supposed to just stay in even when I'm fine? Like, And then they'll be like, oh, but you're not depressed. I'm like, I was not depressed in the first place. I'm not here because I'm depressed. They keep trying to blame it on everything else, and I'm just like,
I think they've also got this rule now, like in some like cams. I don't know if have you heard of cams before?
everyone's like
Yeah.
the evil.
Yeah, it's like cams and sips. Like they've got this new rule now where you can't say depressed, you have to say low mood.
Oh my god.
That's
Oh no, what's it
ridiculous.
gonna do? Is it gonna offend people or something? Like what?
Well, I mean, we live in a world where everyone's offended by everything, so probably.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, I've literally never heard that. Like, are they trying to say that? Oh, they're gonna literally label the diagnosis. It's gonna be like, oh, we can't say depression now. Let's say low mood. They'll just call it low mood disorder or something like that.
Yes, hello, I want to kill myself. I've got a low mood.
That sounds so wrong. Like, I would laugh, and then they'd be like, wow, she's really mental. I can't find where my notes are gone. Oh, there they are. Self-diagnosis and why it's so valid. I mean, I think I've just listed why everything's so valid.
I think self-diagnosis is valid because I mean, anyone who's been through the diagnosis process knows it's such a pain in the backside. Like it's so hard, and I think that like as long as they're serious about it, like I think self-diagnosis, like if they've done plenty of research beforehand, if they've felt like different, alienated their entire life, like if they've done so much research beforehand and are 110% sure that they think they're autistic, then like who are we to say that we aren't, like that they aren't. And you know, like you say, like the NHS and like such a pain in the backside. It's so hard to get a diagnosis. It can take years for some people.
Yeah, like when the mental health nurse was like, yeah, that's ADHD. She's like, I can put you on the list if you want to go for a diagnosis. And I was like, I'll think about it. But I like if she's an expert in mental health, and if she thinks that it's ADHD, like some of it's ADHD, then I'm just going to take it because that's good enough, really, isn't it? Like if somebody who's a mental health professional is like, yeah, but do you want to wait for the official? Like, no, it's fine. I'll chill on it.
It's like my sister-in-law, her son is very clearly autistic. He's got lots of autistic traits, but he hasn't got a diagnosis yet. And his anxiety, I don't know if he's in school anymore, but his anxiety was so bad that he couldn't bring himself to go to school. He would go to school and he would immediately have a meltdown, refuse to go in the classroom. Like that's how bad his anxiety was, and that's how overwhelmed he was by like the school environment. And like he's been to CAMS, he's been to SIP, he's been to like loads of different types of counselling, and they've all said that it's like because of bad parenting. And they've tried to make her go to like parenting classes and stuff, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with my parenting, I've done nothing wrong, like my child's just clearly autistic and you won't do anything about it.
There should be more understanding now, like after everything that, like the amount of knowledge that's like around more than ever, I would say, and to be so discriminatory, like it's just I can't. I
To
have no
blame
words
the
for it.
parents instead of actually trying to do something, to just say, oh, well, it's clearly your fault for not raising them right or something like that. Like, how disrespectful is that?
I'd take the kid out of school.
That's so cheeky to just be like, oh, like it's you need to do parenting classes, like basically saying that she's a bad parent. Like no, hell. And then it was taking a toll on her mental health as well because she didn't know what to do.
Yeah, my mom's kind of in that position with me and what I'm going through. She has no idea, but she's not a bad parent. She's only like, she doesn't know what she's supposed to do. There's no like handbook for like raising autistic kids or like anyone with like whatever I've got. But yeah, there's like no handbook for it, and everyone's doing the best they can to deal with it and in the way that they understand, essentially. And like to criticize it is just absolute ignorance because nobody knows what someone else is going through.
My mum has actually said that before. She felt exactly the same way when I was diagnosed because I mean I was 9, I was a young child, like I didn't even know what autism was. I just thought like, okay, so I've got something called autism, that's why I feel like I'm different. But like my mum just felt like she was thrown into the deep end, like found out that our child was autistic, a condition that she knew nothing about. I don't know if that's the right terminology, condition. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I
I'm trying to
know,
be
you never know anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just trying my hardest to be politically correct and say the right things.
I know, same, because I'm just like, I don't want to be cancelled.
Yeah. But my mum had a stereotypical idea of what she thought autism was because she didn't really know what autism was. She just thought autism was like Rain Man or like Sheldon Cooper or like what's it like all these stereotypes she'd seen online. And then she found out that autism was like a spectrum. And then she was like, oh right, okay, this makes sense. It's not just like, like not all autistic people are like this. It's like a spectrum. And then like because there was a woman at my primary school that worked with autistic kids, and my mum was like, I'm really confused, like I found out that Ellie's autistic but I haven't been given anything on how to like on what autism is, like what to do, I've looked up some stuff online. And then she sort of like kind of helped my mum a little bit, but she felt like, okay, your child's autistic and then go on, like you sort it out for yourself. Like there wasn't enough like she didn't know what to do. Like she was in the deep end.
Yeah, when I got my diagnosis officially, I was just handed the diagnosis and they just left us to it. And I'm just like I was so confused, but because where was I supposed to look for like info? Where was I supposed to like, understand myself? But I've eventually figured it out myself, and I just kind of got on with life because why not? What am I supposed to do if I had no information on what I was going through? I just had to kind of adapt to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing really out there as like a parent's guide, and you kind of feel so bad in a way because you're like, why do I have to put that on them? It should be on me.
Like, I mean, now we've got like the only place you can really go is like YouTube or like TikTok or like books, but like at the time you don't know, like people like parents don't know anything about that. They're just told, okay, your child's autistic, bye. Like, okay, what does that mean? Like, can you expand further? No, bye. Like, okay.
Yeah,
Like you
basically just telling you something and just being, oh, like jump in the deep end, we're not gonna help you, just go on in. Like that would be so confusing, just like, well, what am I meant to do? What like you would need at least some guidance to be like, yeah, some steps to take. Or even here's a pamphlet, read through it.
Yeah, pretty much like there's nothing, and there was nothing for me, and I'm just like I remember I was just so confused. And when actually autistic Twitter came about in like 2020, I found out a lot of things and I was like, whoa, I'm like, wait, that's like what? And then it blew up from there. And I mean, I still don't know fully myself because it's an absolute mess. But yeah, it helped.
when I yeah, sorry, I keep
It's
interrupting you.
fine.
It's all right.
When I keep, I mean, because at 9, I wasn't old enough to really understand. Like, I was only 9, you know what I mean? But when I got a bit older than 9, when I got to about 13, 14, when I was old enough, like, my curiosity got the better of us and I started, like, educating myself. And it was like a light bulb moment, like, seeing all these other people. Like, I'm like, oh, so that's why, like, I'm really good at this and that's why I struggle with this. And seeing people being, like, out and proud about it online made me feel better. Like, oh, so, like, there isn't anything wrong with me. I'm just different. Like, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like if I'm having a bad time, I'll always watch like Rizzoli and Isles, the posters like right there behind us. Because when I watched it for the first time, I mean, I didn't understand fully well that like the one of the characters was just definitely autistic, and even the actress clicked onto it. And it's just like it made us feel so much better because she was established, she was a professional, she got to like have the career she wanted, and she just could be herself, and she was so accepted by those around her and just like idolized. And I was like, wow, I was like, maybe there's hope for me. Like seeing people like that on the screen actually helps a lot of people, and I don't think people understand that. Like if you see someone like I don't know what the words, it's just like someone you can idolize and someone who's just like yourself and what you're going through, it kind of helps you stay alive in a way.
Yeah, definitely. It makes you feel better. I think it's also a comfort thing as well to see other people that are like you. It reminds you like you're not the only person who feels this way. There's other people who like also feel the same way and they understand. That's a comforting thing, I guess.
Yeah. That's why I kind of wrote Monday Blues, because I started writing it in 2021 when everything was rife and there was loads of hatred and there was no examples at all. There was, well, apart from all the sea drama that I kicked off, but I just wanted like a good example out there, someone who's autistic and can succeed despite having like difficulties. And I feel like when they portray like certain things, they show it either as like they have loads of issues or they have no issues at all and they're just like living their entire life, and that gives the wrong idea that autistics in a certain way can't have struggles, when in reality we'll have a bit of both. Like, it's just like that needs to be shown. And I would say that I've done that, and Lee would know because he reads my scripts for us, because I don't read them. I can't read them because sometimes they're triggering and sometimes they're not triggering. It just depends.
What you wrote in Monday Blues, like it shows like really well, like kind of the struggle that the character is going through with her autism, well, undiagnosed at the time, and it's just like it's very, very accurate. You've worked those details in to where it's not like over the top like most shows will do it, but it's perfect realism.
Yeah, people like I think, oh, I can't even think, but like people think you're a troublemaker if like certain things happen, and like sometimes you have absolutely no control over yourself and you just can't stop. Like if you see in a meltdown and things start to go wrong, like sometimes you're just stuck and you say things you probably don't mean, and it just explosive, and then you usually get wrong for it. You get in loads of trouble, especially in school, and like they don't get that. They don't understand what's going wrong. And even if you try to explain it, sometimes like you're lying. Like that is the worst thing that people can say.
I was put in isolation so many times for having autistic meltdowns. And what really pisses me off about, I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear, but
It's
like
fine, you can
That's
swear.
right.
what really like annoys us about it is like this school put over that they were like an autism friendly school, in that, you know, they know so much, they had like an autism unit as well. And like this man who was like my head of year at the time, he had an autistic son. So he knew somewhat about autism. And it was annoying because how can you put over that you're such an autism friendly school, but yet I'm being punished for my autistic meltdowns, things that I literally can't control. And I always say to my mum, and I've said this to Cams and like Sips before in the past, like I've said to them, like, look, I'm sorry if this makes me sound like so insane, but like when I'm having a meltdown, like that's not me. And it's like my body's taken over by something.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
how I feel about BPD. That's what happens with me, but I feel like it's not a meltdown. It's like I feel like it's so hard to explain because people would think that it was a meltdown, but like there's a big difference. They're similar in like structure, I would say, but very different with like what comes of them. But yeah, I used to have meltdowns a lot, and I had no knowledge of what was happening. And I automatically thought what I was going through for the last year was just meltdowns. But then I started realizing like this ain't a meltdown. Like this is like so much worse. Like I'd never experienced what I was going through, and I'm like, whoa, I'm like, this is too much. There's something definitely wrong.
I sometimes feel like a hypocrite, like talking about like autism meltdowns, like on TikTok, because even at 19, like myself, I don't really fully know how to cope or deal with my meltdowns. Like it's the anger that I can't cope with because I hate the feeling of feeling angry. I don't know how to cope with it, and I just hate the feeling. And when I do say like horrible things, like during meltdowns, and when I kick off and scream and shout, and I'm like, once it's done, and I'm like, who the hell was that? Because that is not me. Like, I would never do that. Like, I would never say that. It's literally like, I don't know, like something has taken over my body. Like some kind of evil, like spirit has just came over me and being like just this horrible, hateful person. I'm like, That is not me. Like, I would never do that. I would never say that. So, like, I don't know who she was, but that wasn't me. That was Patricia. Like, that's
Yeah,
how I feel.
it's better to name the demons. I feel like I should name mine. I have no idea what though. I'll figure it out. I feel like it should be B. It needs a B name. Yeah, that's something to figure out later on. Like, I just know how you feel because that's what it's like. And like, I found some things that can help, but at the same time, they don't always work. And that's the issue. Trying to find a strategy that can work more of the time than others. So the ones that I've learned is if you feel sick during meltdowns or like psychosis like I do, Lucozade is like a savior, and my mum's probably hidden a stash or something because I always need it. And also listening to like something that has a low frequency, like music or therapy music, because I was listening to like spa music on Amazon. I don't know why. It was driving us insane still, like it was just not helping. Audible, that kind of thing. Just if you turn the TV on, like it makes it so much worse in a way because it's too much for your brain to handle and can just like make things worse. I think like the thing with meltdowns and psychosis, I think the link to dopamine and the brain gets so over like flowed by dopamine that it just goes, it just does its thing and you're just stuck there like, oh, I wish this would stop. And it's something you can't really control, which sucks because I think everyone wishes they could control them.
It's the worst when you feel like you just really need to like have a meltdown and kick off, but you're in public and you have to wait till you get home.
Yeah.
The way that like my therapist at the time described it, she was like, so you're like a fizzy cola bottle, like like when you shake like a, oh, I probably shouldn't do that. That looks
Oh, you fill up a stool. Oh my god.
no, but you know what I mean. Like when
Yeah.
someone like a
Shakes a
fizzy
bottle.
like Coke bottle, like to the point where it's like, so like that's the amount of times like someone's pissed you off throughout the day, and then someone takes the lid off, and then you just like erupt like a volcano. So that's me throughout the day, like getting shaken up. I come home and I just explode.
What I usually do if I'm in public, I usually go on my phone and ring someone and I rant whatever is in my head out. I usually do that. I've done that to Lee because my dad, oh, I hope he doesn't watch this. He once, like, I think it was before Christmas, he got sick of his day and he's like, that's it, I'm leaving. And he left us in Newcastle. We're supposed to have plans. And I was so angry. I'm like, I'm not going to have a meltdown. Like, I can't. Like, I can't introduce anything here. And I just ranted it out. Like, I just kept going and going, even when it didn't make any sense. I was so angry, but it helped. Like, it stopped anything in its tracks coming, which was decent, I suppose. So I think that could actually be a good coping strategy to just rant things out, even if it's to no one.
I think if you get off your chest, even if you like record yourself saying it, and that's a really good stress relief. Like, because you instead of holding it inside, where like the thing is, if I need to say something and like someone interrupts us or something, it's like kind of I get that kind of like this like kind of burning feeling where I'm like, I need to say it, I need to say it, I need to say it. So I think if you just record yourself, get it off your chest. Like I've done that a few times where I've just recorded myself and I've literally went on for like half hour just on a rant, and I've clicked record and I felt so much better after.
So the worst thing about that, right, is like I did that before, because sometimes I do that when I'm annoyed and I need to like sound off. I'll record videos of me just like going off, and sometimes I'm literally just talking to myself. And I actually posted them on Snapchat.
Oh no. I relate. I've done stuff like that.
It was only for like 5 minutes, but like so many, like about 15 people saw it, and I was like, no, 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 no. So I immediately deleted it, and then I went to school the next day. They were like, what the hell was that about? And I'm like, just forget about it. Pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than that. I relate because in a different way, like when I was absolutely psychotic, I didn't think that I was typing on my real phone. And I ended up typing to my friend, saying whatever came from my head. And I was like, oh, I was like, no. The next day I was like, no, I was like, that was real. Oh, here we go. I'm like, this is it. I've killed a friendship because I just couldn't stop. Yeah.
There's been so many like friendship difficulties where someone has said something to me like as a joke, and I've took what they've said seriously, and like I'll go off them, and then they'll call me a snowflake, and then this, that, and the other, and I'm like, oh wait, hold on, you were joking. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's sometimes like a problem with me, like with because I sometimes take things too seriously, and then I'm called a snowflake and this, that, and the other. I'm like, I'm not a snowflake. I'm not an overly sensitive person. I just don't always understand.
Yeah. One
Yeah.
thing that I like, this is the thing, like people, like when they say we don't understand humor, we understand good humor. Like
Oh,
some people's are just like really bad.
neurotypical people say so many things that literally don't make any sense. And I'll ask my mum, like, why do you say that? And my mum's like, I don't even know. It's like when people say like, oh, it's raining cats and dogs, when what they really mean is it's just raining. I'm like, why do people say that when cats and dogs aren't actually falling from the sky? Like, that's so stupid. Stupid.
Yeah.
I say stupid all the time, and it's stupid. But then my mum's like, come to think, really, I don't actually know why people say that. It's just a thing. And I'm like, where did this thing come from though? Who invented this? I've always thought metaphors are stupid. Make no sense.
I've just thought of a memory from college and I'm like, oh, I forgot that one. And someone was like, why is a cup a cup? And that was literally like, it's just like, but why? Why is a cup a cup? And they're like,
My brain,
oh my gosh.
my brain it just exploded. Like, I actually had a similar conversation with my boyfriend. Like, this was months ago. I said, if you think about it, like we made up words. We decided that like the number three was number three. What if the number three was hot dog? What if it was like 1, 2, hot dog, 4, 5? Instead of like 2:45, like I said, oh, it's quarter to hot dog. And then I don't know, I kind of made his brain explode. He was like, I don't know. But like, we literally made everything up. We made up numbers, we made up words. Like, I don't know. I try
Yeah.
not to think too much because it drives us insane.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that with colours. Like this is green, but how is it green? Like the first person who's seen it, how was it green? Like how is red red? Like
How did they
I
come up with words?
yeah, just where did red come from? Like oh, this is red. Like how? Like
And then it's
oh
like, and then it's like, where did colors come from?
yeah.
Oh, this
Who?
is what I hate getting into this whole thing because I think about the universe and like how we actually exist, and we could literally be upside down right now in the world. Like, where did gravity come from? And like, if
Or
you
we could be
travel
in a
to
simulator.
Australia, it's like tomorrow. Like, that's time travel.
Hmm. Time zones are weird.
Yeah. What have we done?
I don't know. This
What
is
is time? What is time itself? Who
like put.
decided? Like who made the first clock? Oh no, yeah, it's going to be 1 o'clock now.
Oh, it's cool. Dog.
I don't even know what to go on to now.
Leave it at that.
Should we like go on to the last two bits and talk about the benefits of being autistic and why
Yeah.
being different is actually a good thing, even though I think I went into that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mentioned like if you look up the top people in like any field, I guarantee like some of them will have been autistic, because I think that's, to do with special interests. Like we get so obsessed with something to the point where like we basically know everything about it, and a lot of people, like autistic people, have like made a career out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like I got all my knowledge from my disability from looking at like other autistic advocates. Like since I was 13, like I'm 19 now. I've been doing this for like nearly 7 years, and then I sort of got my knowledge from like sort of trying to educate myself about my disability, and now I educate other people through the knowledge that I've gained from like watching other people. And I guess in a way I've sort of made a career out of that, because at the time that was my special interest, because I wanted to understand myself better. And it's like there's autistic people out there who are obsessed with computers, and that like there's literally tech companies that will only hire autistic people. Like a lot of autistic people have made careers like around their special interests, and some of them have actually like done really well. And it's made
Yeah. You can go on if you want. That was just like,
No, that was it really. I was just saying that like special interests can make you successful.
yeah, I feel like that's always a good thing, because if you know a lot of knowledge about one thing, like that could change the world essentially. Like it could just completely, you never know what it can do, and there's no limits to that, especially when you've like, honestly, where do we store the amount of knowledge we'll have? Like that's the thing. Like how does it all fit in here? Because that is just like, I have so much, and I'll randomly come out with things and it's just like, what? Where did I hear that from? Like,
The way that we like creatively like try and find a way to like put our special interest into a conversation.
oh I know, I hate
Like
doing
someone,
that sometimes.
oh, but interestingly enough, and it's like, well, we're not even talking about that. But okay, now we've got to listen to our talk for half an hour about this thing.
Yeah, I try my best to like, if I've got the urge to speak about things, I'm like, no, I'm like, just don't do it. Just like just hide it for a while, and then maybe mention it a few days later. And it's like crazy. It is. I
The
feel
worst
sorry for my
is
mom.
when you're in the same room as two people that are talking about your special interest, and you just want to go over and be like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything there is, that like everything you need to know. And they're like, who is this girl? What's going on? Like, I want to info dump so bad, but it's like at the same time, I don't know these people, and they're going to think I'm so weird.
Yeah, I would definitely relate to that. I just
That's
kind
me
of
with
learned
the
to shut my
paranormal and horror films.
X-Files.
Yes, I could go on about paranormal, horror, X-Files for like hours on end.
I'm massively in like I'm such a horror fanatic. I'm massively into like paranormal and ghosts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I
I've got
believe
Chucky behind us.
I believe in it. I really do. I've
Creep.
always believed.
Yeah, I've always believed it. I've always been researching it ever since I was 13. Always. Like, I've been looking it up since I was 13. I can tell you about all the different types of spirits, reasons why some are intelligent and some are residual. Like, that's a road I don't want to go down on this episode.
Yeah, so does anyone want to say anything else so we can wrap it up and we can continue talking? I mean, my MacBook's on charge because it was about to die.
Honestly, just be proud of who you are. Being different is okay. It's not wrong. It's just different. Body called autism speaks. Completely slate them if you really want to, because they're just honestly, just be proud of who you are, because being different, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And so many people in the world who are successful have been autistic, and just embrace and be proud of who you are.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah. Yeah, being who you are is so much better. The good thing about like, if you be who you are, you're not following the crowd, and a lot of
Yeah.
people just follow the crowd.
And honestly, like I couldn't think of anything more boring than being normal. So
Mm.
Exactly.